We all agree that the world is kind of a rotten place and you can find evil and insane people everywhere. Every country has its criminals. But the United States, it made a list born from a 1949 conversation between J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI visited director, and a curious journalist who just wanted to know, who are your toughest guys to catch? The idea exploded, headlines went wild, and by the 14th of March 1950, the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list was official, a public scoreboard for America's most dangerous, most elusive, and sometimes most ridiculous outlaws. Since then, over 530 fugitives have made the cut. Murderers, bank robbers, cult leaders, gangsters, and even the occasional family man who just snapped. Some were caught within hours, others vanished for decades. One stayed hidden for 32 years, and a few, they're still out there right now, maybe sitting in a diner, scrolling through their own wanted poster. They were faces in photos. Lives that once looked ordinary until they didn't. Today, we're going through the list. Not just the crimes, but the people behind them, their secrets, their obsessions, and the moments where everything cracked, from small-town kids who went bad, to masterminds who fooled the system for years. This is the top 10 of America's most wanted fugitives. But before we dig in, I upload true crime breakdowns once or twice a week. So do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button. He was born May 15, 1990 in India. Bhadreshkumar Patel married in his mid-20s to Palak, and the couple came together to visit relatives in the United States in September 2014. Bhadreshkumar was 24 at the time, while Palak was 21. They stayed. He wanted to build a life around the so-called American dream. Palak not so much, as some would say. But she wanted to support her husband's decision. Friends and neighbors described Bhadreshkumar as quiet and hardworking. Ordinary details, ordinary enough to make what followed worse. The 12th of April 2015, Bhadreshkumar and Palak were working a night shift at a Dunkin' Donuts located on Arundel Mills Boulevard 3 in Hanover, Maryland. The store was owned by a relative of Bhadreshkumar. Surveillance footage showed them walking together in the kitchen at around 9:30 p.m. before disappearing out of view behind some racks. Moments later, Bhadreshkumar emerged without his wife, turned off an oven, and left the store. The body of 21-year-old Palak Patel was found later that night. She had been beaten to death by Bhadreshkumar and stabbed multiple times with a large kitchen knife. Investigators believe the couple had an argument, with Palak wanting to return to India, Bhadreshkumar wishing to remain in the US instead. Surveillance and travel records show Bhadreshkumar leaving that area, and later being seen at Newark Penn Station the next day. He was added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted list on the 18th of April, 2017. The FBI lists him as wanted for the April 2015 murder of his wife. Reward information and last known movements are posted publicly. What as public is named, the date, the charge, a pattern of travel across several US states and outside the US. What as not public, intimate, medical, or mental health records, detailed private family disclosures. So where the line between motive and domestic tragedy sits is largely constructed from police affidavits and witness statements. This person is still out there somewhere. Investigators have been chasing leads for years, but so far, nothing. Not even a whisper besides false claims of sighting here and there. And honestly, that's kind of the story with most of these fugitives, ghosts, hiding in plain sight, maybe even living right next door. But the last one on this list, yeah, that one is different, that one is so disturbing. I will probably have to wait to give you a breakdown. The next one on our list is Alejandro Castillo. Castillo was born on the 26th of November 1998 in Arizona. He speaks fluent English and Spanish. In 2016, then 17-year-old Castillo worked at a Showmars restaurant in Charlotte, North Carolina, and was co-workers with 23 Truckwan Sandy. Spoiler alert. The two reportedly briefly dated, and at some point Leah had lent Castillo some money which he never paid back to her. It was the 9th of August 2016, Sandy Ley gets a text from her ex-boyfriend, Alejandro Castillo. He tells her he wants to pay her back the money he owed. Seems simple enough, right? They agree to meet at a Quick Trip gas station on Eastway Drive in Charlotte, North Carolina. That afternoon, Castillo gets picked up by his girlfriend at the time, Amia Feaster, in her red Dodge Caliber. They head to meet Sandy. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. Instead of paying her back, investigators believe Castillo forced Sandy to withdraw all the money from her account. Maybe at gunpoint, not confirmed. Her bank statement showed a single $1,000 withdrawal. After that, her account was wiped clean. Detectives later pieced together what they think happened next. Castillo drove Sandy out to a wooded area in Cabarrus County, and there he shot her once in the head. Her body was dumped in a ravine, left to be found days later. After the murder, Castillo and Feaster fled North Carolina, driving Sandy's black 2003 Toyota Corolla all the way to Phoenix, Arizona. They ditched the car near a bus stop, where police would later find it abandoned. But the pair didn't stop there. They kept running straight to Nogales, Arizona, where security cameras caught Castillo crossing the border into Mexico. And since that moment, he vanished. Authorities believe he is hiding somewhere in Mexico, possibly Aguascalientes, Guanajuato, or Veracruz. Sandy was reported missing the day after she was killed. A few days later, Castillo and Feaster were reported missing too. On the 13th of August, Feaster's red Dodge Caliber was found abandoned on Doolin Creek Boulevard in Charlotte. Then, something strange happened. Both families got phone calls from Castillo and Feaster. They said they were safe, but did not know where they were. At first, their families thought they'd been kidnapped, forced to make those calls. 4 days later, on the 17th of August, Sandy's body was discovered in that wooded area in Cabarrus County. She'd been shot once in the head. Police ruled the motive as simple robbery. But to everyone who knew Sandy, that simple reason made absolutely no sense. By the 2nd of November 2016, Castillo was officially charged with first-degree murder, and when he failed to turn himself in, the FBI added a federal charge, unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Meanwhile, Amia Feaster, the getaway driver, cracked. On the 20th of October 2016, she turned herself in to authorities in Aguascalientes, Mexico. With help from her mother, U.S. authorities arranged for her return. 2 days later, she was arrested in Texas and charged as an accessory after the fact to murder and larceny of a motor vehicle. Her bond was set at $125,000 total. After posting bail, she was released in January 2017. According to her, she and Castillo had been staying with his cousins in Mexico for weeks, until one day, he just disappeared. And to this day, he hasn't been seen since. So somewhere out there, Alejandro Castillo is still walking free, maybe changed his name, maybe living an ordinary life, blending into a crowd that has no idea who he really is. But one thing is for sure, until he is caught, this case will never truly rest. Although the FBI doesn't rank these fugitives by how twisted or dangerous their crimes are. If they did, this next one would easily make the top 3. I am talking about Yulan Adonay Archaga Carias. Born the 13th of February, 1982, in Honduras, Archaga, Carias isn't just another gang leader. He is believed to be the man running the entire MS-13 operation across Honduras, a network tied to drugs, guns, and murder on both sides of the US border. The FBI says he is responsible for funneling cash, weapons, and narcotics into the United States, and for ordering the execution of rival gang members without hesitation. Basically, if MS-13 has a pulse in Honduras, it beats to his rhythm. The hunt begins in November 2021. The FBI officially added Archaga Carias to its 10 most wanted fugitives list, making him the 526th person ever to make that cut. He replaced another infamous fugitive, Robert William Fisher, and came with a $100,000 reward for any information leading to his arrest. But the US government wasn't done yet. By February 2023, they escalated things, big time. The State Department announced a $5 million reward through its Narcotics Rewards program for any information that could lead to Archaga Carias' capture. And on the same day, the US Treasury officially sanctioned him, freezing any assets linked to him and warning that anyone doing business with him could be prosecuted under federal law. When the US hits you with sanctions and a multi-million-dollar bounty, you've made the wrong kind of list. And the great escape here is where the story gets even crazier. In 2015, Archaga Carias was actually arrested in Honduras, convicted of money laundering and illicit association. He was serving time behind bars, at least for a while. On the 13th of February, 2020, his birthday, he was supposed to attend a court hearing in El Progreso, about 28 kilometers from San Pedro Sula. But instead of the usual high-security convoy, he was quietly transported in a simple van with minimal guards, no helicopters, no advance notice, no real protection. And then surveillance footage shows two separate groups of armed men dressed in military police uniforms storming the courthouse. One team brought in a fake prisoner as a decoy. The other brought in a protected witness, covered by a black tunic, except this time, the tunic wasn't hiding a witness, it was hiding guns and ammunition. Within minutes, gunfire erupted. And Archaga Carias vanished in the smoke. MS-13 had just pulled off one of the boldest jailbreaks in Central American history. The United States went full throttle. In 2021, the Southern District of New York indicted Archaga Carias on multiple charges: racketeering, narcotics trafficking, and firearms offenses. That same year, he officially became one of the FBI's 10 most wanted. The Bureau even dedicated an episode of its Inside the FBI podcast and YouTube series to him and the hunt for MS-13's leadership. But despite all the international attention, Archaga Carias hasn't been seen since. Authorities believe he is still somewhere in Honduras, likely protected by the same network that broke him out in the first place. So let's sum this up. A convicted gang boss, busted out of court in broad daylight by fake cops, vanishes into thin air. And 4 years later, the world's most powerful agencies, FBI, ICE, the State Department, and Treasury, still can't find him. Whether he is hiding deep in the Honduras mountains or living under a new name, one thing's for sure. Yulan Adonay Archaga Carias is a ghost with an army, and his story is far from over. Our next entry could absolutely be a box office success, or an Emmy Award nominee. Ruja Ignatova, better known as the Crypto Queen. She was a Bulgarian, German entrepreneur who pulled off one of the biggest financial scams in modern history. She founded OneCoin, a so-called cryptocurrency that promised huge returns and revolutionized investing. But in reality, it was a massive pyramid scheme that stole billions from investors around the world. Born in Bulgaria in 1980, Ruja was brilliant from an early age. She earned a PhD in law and even worked for McKinsey & Company before launching OneCoin in 2014. Ignatova married BJ Ernest Strish, a German lawyer. The couple's daughter was born in 2016. Everything was routine, glamour, luxury, and success until it wasn't. Behind that success was an empire built on lies, fake blockchain technology, falsified numbers, and millions of victims across dozens of countries, from China to Uganda. In October 2017, Ignatova boarded a Ryanair flight from Sofia, Bulgaria, to Athens, Greece, and then vanished. She hasn't been seen since. Since her disappearance, she has been one of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives, with a reward of up to $5 million for any information leading to her arrest. Authorities in the US, Germany, and across Europe have charged her with wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering. But the story gets even darker. Reports from 2023 and 2024 suggest that Ruja may have been murdered back in 2018, allegedly on the orders of a Bulgarian crime boss known as Taki, who had been protecting her after the collapse of OneCoin. According to sources, she was killed aboard a yacht in the Aegean Sea. and her body was never found. Today, her legacy remains one of greed, deception, and mystery. Whether she is still alive or was silenced years ago. One thing's for sure, Ruja Ignatova's name will forever be linked to one of the greatest financial scams in history. To some people, this one may seem to have happened out of the blue, but for investigators and detectives, there might be a clear motive. Our next entry is Omar Alexander Cardenas, born the 23rd of March, 1995 in Los Angeles, California. He is a suspected gang member turned fugitive. Now, one of the FBI's 10 most wanted. He is wanted for the cold-blooded murder of 46-year-old Jabali Dumas, gunned down outside a barbershop in Sylmar, California. According to investigators, on the 15th of August 2019, surveillance footage shows Jabali Dumas leaving the barbershop and walking over to a small convenience store nearby, a place he often stopped by. He chats with the clerk, smiles, and even wishes her a great day. It seems like any other ordinary moment in his daily routine. But just minutes later, as Dumas steps back outside, everything changes. That's when the suspect approaches. Without warning, gunfire erupts. Dumas is struck multiple times. A brutal, calculated attack that leaves him no chance to escape. The store's cameras didn't capture the shooter directly, but investigators pieced the scene together using footage from a nearby security camera. In that video, a figure can be seen walking toward the barbershop just moments before the murder. Cardenas allegedly opened fire from about 30 feet away. 9 shots in total, hitting Dumas in the head. The victim died instantly. Surveillance footage captured Cardenas fleeing the scene moments later. At the time, Cardenas was reportedly tied to the Van Nuys Boys, a violent street gang based in the San Fernando Valley. Law enforcement sources say his group was locked in a long-standing rivalry with several other local gangs, and the shooting may have been connected to those tensions, though authorities have never confirmed whether Dumas himself was directly involved in gang activity. By April 2020, Cardenas had officially been charged with murder. But before police could arrest him, he vanished. A year later, federal authorities charged him with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. The FBI believes he may have fled south, possibly crossing into Mexico, where he could be using fake documents or laying low under an alias. Others believe he could still be hiding somewhere in Southern California, blending in among family or working odd jobs in construction. On the 20th of July 2022, Omar Cardenas became the 528th fugitive ever added to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list, replacing Eugene Palmer, who was removed without capture. The Bureau has placed a $250,000 reward for information leading to his arrest. Despite years of searching, Cardenas has managed to stay one step ahead of both the LAPD and the FBI. Some investigators believe that his gang connections and possible ties to drug trafficking networks in Mexico have made him harder to locate. To this day, Omar Alexander Cardenas remains on the run. A wanted man accused of a senseless killing in the streets of Los Angeles, and one of the FBI's top priorities. Our next all-time star goes by many names: Carlos El Parco, Wilver Villegas, Wilver Palomino, born the 21st of October 1981 in Curumani, Colombia, a ranking commander of the Ejército de Liberación Nacional ELN, one of Colombia's oldest guerrilla groups, now also a major narco terror organization. Palomino didn't start as a small-time criminal. He climbed the chain in the northeastern war front of the ELN, the region of Catatumbo, on the Colombian-Venezuelan border, an area the USS produces up to 200 tons of cocaine annually under his front's control. Through trafficking routes, arms deals, and covert laboratories, the money flowed upward, mining poverty and political instability to build a narco-terror empire. On the 13th of February 2020, a federal arrest warrant was issued by the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Texas, charging him with narcoterrorism, international cocaine distribution, conspiracy international cocaine distribution. By the 21st of September 2020, the U.S. State Department announced a reward of up to $5 million for information, leading to his arrest or conviction. 14th of April 2023, the FBI officially added Wilver Villegas-Palomino to its 10 most wanted fugitives list. He is listed as 530 in sequence, at large, armed and dangerous. Why he matters? This isn't just another drug lord. The US says he funds terrorist attacks, he buys political influence, he destabilizes governments. The cocaine his labs produce winds up on our streets, fueling violence and addiction far from the jungle. Police in Houston call this their first CPT, Consolidated Priority Target, from the L, with direct ties to the US market. Villegas-Palomino remains at large. Authorities believe he remains somewhere in Colombia or Venezuela, protected by jungle terrain and guerrilla networks. He goes by aliases, he changes routes, his network spans borders. He is a ghost in a war zone that touches your neighborhood. Wilver Villegas-Palomino is more than the face on a poster. He is a symbol of how narco gangs, guerrilla warfare, and international criminal networks intertwine, until he is brought to justice. His war front is not just in Colombia, it's on the streets of America too. A man the US government calls a global narcotics threat, and one the Mexican military has tried and failed to capture for over a decade. With a $5 million bounty on his head, Fausto Isidro Meza Flores, better known as El Chapo Isidro, remains a ghost in the underworld of northern Mexico. Once a loyal soldier of the Beltran Leyva cartel, he is now considered one of the last surviving heirs of that bloody empire. Born on the 19th of June, 1982, in Navajo, Sonora, Meza Flores grew up in a region deeply tied to Mexico's drug corridor. By the mid-90s, still barely in his teens, he had already entered the criminal world, working under Amado Carrillo Fuentes, the infamous Lord of the Skies and leader of the Juarez cartel. But when Carrillo Fuentes died in 1997 during a botched plastic surgery, the cartel fractured and Fausto saw his opportunity. He joined forces with the Beltran Leyva brothers, an organization quickly rising through Mexico's narco ranks. Those close to him described him as a skilled hitman, cunning and fearless, someone who thrived in chaos and learned to lead through violence. Everything changed in December 2009 when Arturo Beltran Leyva was killed in a bloody shootout with Mexican Marines. The cartel split in two. Many of its lieutenants fled, aligning with rival factions like La Barbie's organization, but not Fausto. El Chapo Isidro stayed loyal. He rebuilt his forces, gathered surviving gunmen, and formed a powerful cell known as Los Mazarocos, a group that would soon terrorize the states of Sinaloa, Sonora. Then came the 1st of July, 2010, the Tubitama Sonora shootout. That morning, Mexican authorities discovered 11 bullet-riddled vehicles just a few miles from the Arizona border. Bodies lay across the highway, more than 30 men dead, in what was described as one of the bloodiest clashes in recent history. According to reports, the battle was between El Chapo Isidro's forces, backed by Los Zetas, and the Sinaloa cartel, supported by Gente Nueva. The ambush was brutal, surgical, and deadly effective. Investigators later identified Meza Flores and his associate Arnoldo Del Cid Buena, known as El Gilo, as the architects of that attack. From that moment, El Chapo Isidro wasn't just a rising name, he was a national priority target. The US government soon took notice. In January 2013, the US Department of the Treasury's OFAC froze Meza Flores' assets under the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Act, sanctioning him, several family members, and companies tied to his network. That same year, witnesses reportedly spotted him in San Pedro Garza Garca, near Monterrey, calmly watching a youth basketball game with his family. He vanished again shortly after. The U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia later charged him with conspiracy to manufacture and distribute massive quantities of methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, and marijuana for importation into the United States, along with firearms violations. A $5 million reward remains on the table for any information leading to his arrest. On the 4th of February 2025, the FBI officially added Fausto Isidro Meza Flores to the 10 most wanted fugitives list, making him fugitive number 533. He replaced Donald Eugene Fields, a child sex trafficker who had been captured. Today, El Chapo Isidro remains a free man, possibly somewhere in northern Mexico, moving through a network of safe houses, operatives, and corrupt officials. For years, rumors have swirled about his exact whereabouts. Some say he is hiding in the mountains of Sinaloa. Others claim he has moved operations further south. But one thing is certain, the FBI wants him, the DA wants him. And yet, more than 20 years after his first step into the cartel world, Fausto Isidro Meza Flores has managed to do what few others could: stay alive, stay hidden, and stay in control. Whether El Chapo Isidro is captured or falls like those before him, his story shows how deep the roots of Mexico's drug war truly run, and how hard it is to kill an empire built on loyalty, fear, and silence. One of the newest faces on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, a man accused of exporting terror, drugs, and death across borders from the prisons of Venezuela to the streets of Central America and beyond. His name is Giovanni Vicente Mascherano, known on the streets as Giovanni San Vicente. Authorities say he is one of the architects of Tren de Aragua, Venezuela's most powerful and feared criminal organization. Added to the FBI's list on the 24th of June, 2025, Mosquera Serrano is wanted for narcotics trafficking and terrorism, a signal that the US now sees the group as more than just a gang, but as an emerging transnational criminal threat. Giovanni Vicente Mosquera Serrano was born on the 22nd of February 1988 in San Vicente, a barrio in the city of Maracay, Venezuela, the same city where Tren de Aragua was born. His upbringing unfolded during the early 2000s, years marked by economic decline, rising violence, and the gradual collapse of Venezuela's institutions. Out of that chaos, a new criminal order emerged. Inside the Tokrim prison, a facility that became infamous for being controlled not by guards but by inmates, a small group of men began to organize. Among them were Hector Rustenford Guerrero Flores, known as New Two Guerrero, Johan José Romero Johan Petrica, and Mosquera Serrano himself. Together, they built what would become Tren de Aragua, a network that started as a local prison gang and grew into an international criminal syndicate. By the late 2010s, Tren de Aragua had spread beyond Venezuela's borders. From Colombia and Ecuador to Peru, Chile, and Central America, the group controlled everything from drug routes to human trafficking, extortion, and illegal mining. And according to us and Colombian authorities, Mosquera Serrano played a central role in that expansion. Operating under the alias Giovanni San Vicente, he oversaw cocaine trafficking networks, murder operations, and money laundering channels connected to the organization. Intelligence reports claim he coordinated shipments of cocaine from Colombian laboratories to Central America using routes that eventually led to Mexico and the United States. For years, he remained mostly in the shadows, while Neo Guerrero ran operations from within Venezuela's prisons. Mosquera handled what experts now call the foreign wing of Tren de Aragua. By mid-2024, both the Colombian government and the US Department of Justice had issued warrants for his arrest. He was accused of providing material support to a designated foreign terrorist organization and conspiring to distribute cocaine intended for the United States. In March 2025, one of his closest collaborators, José Enrique Martinez Flores, another high-ranking member of Tren de Aragua, was captured in Ciuta, Colombia, but Mosquera Serrano disappeared before authorities could reach him. Law enforcement believes he may be operating between Venezuela, Panama, and southern Colombia, protected by corrupt networks and armed cells loyal to Tren de Aragua. On the 24th of June 2025, the US government officially sanctioned Mosquera Serrano, freezing any assets linked to him under the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act. That same day, the FBI added him to the 10 most wanted fugitives list, replacing Francisco Javier Ron Benbardeos, a Honduran fugitive captured earlier that year. The move was significant. It marked one of the first times a Venezuelan gang leader was placed on the same list once reserved for cartel bosses and terrorists. The FBI described Mosquera Serrano as armed, extremely dangerous, and capable of directing violence across borders. The agency has offered a reward of up to $1 million for information leading to his arrest. Under Mosquera Serrano's leadership abroad, Tren de Aragua evolved into a multinational enterprise, one that mixes cartel organization with the brutality of prison gangs. Their reach extends from South America to North America, infiltrating migrant routes, ports, and drug corridors. Experts now compare Tren de Aragua to the early days of MS-13 or Los Zetas, decentralized, violent, and spreading fast. And at the center of that evolution stands Giovanni Vicente Mosquera Serrano. As of late 2025, his exact location remains unknown. Some intelligence points to Zulia State, near the Colombian border. Others suggest he may have fled north, seeking protection from regional allies. But one thing is clear, the hunt for Giovanni San Vicente has only just begun. From the prison walls of Tocumen to the FBI's 10 most wanted list, Giovanni Vicente Moscara, Serrano's rise reflects the growing power of Venezuela's underworld, and the alarming truth that Tren de Aragua is no longer just Venezuela's problem. It's a multinational empire, and its shadow is spreading fast. Our second to last entry had everything: talent, discipline, fame, and a shot at Olympic glory. But somewhere between the frozen slopes of Salt Lake City and the dark alleys of Vancouver, Ryan James' wedding took a turn no one saw coming. From Team Canada snowboarder to international drug trafficker, from Olympic dreams to FBI's 10 most wanted. This is the story of how one man's climb to the top ended with a fall so spectacular it shocked both the sports world and the criminal underworld alike. Ryan James' wedding was born on the 14th of September 1981 in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. The eldest of 3 children, Ryan grew up surrounded by snow, skis, and mountains. His family wasn't just athletic, they were practically royalty in the Canadian winter sports scene. His grandparents owned the Mount Baldy ski resort, his uncle coached the Canadian women's national alpine ski team, and his father, a former competitive skier and engineer, made sure the slopes were home. When Ryan was 12, the family moved to Coquitlam, British Columbia, and that's where his destiny met a snowboard. He won the very first race he ever entered. By age 15, he was already on Team Canada's national snowboard team. He went on to win bronze at the 1999 Junior World Championships, then silver in 2001. And finally, the ultimate achievement, representing Canada in the 2002 Winter Olympics. At just 20 years old, Ryan walked into the Olympic Village in Salt Lake City, a world-class athlete, national pride story. He competed in the men's parallel giant slalom, finishing 24th, not bad, but not what he had dreamed of either. And that's where the story starts to crack. After the Olympics, the lights faded, the sponsors stopped calling. He quietly stepped away from competitive snowboarding, returning to Vancouver with an Olympic past but no clear future. He enrolled at Simon Fraser University, started bodybuilding, and worked nights as a bouncer. But soon, the adrenaline that once came from racing downhill was replaced by a much darker rush. By 2005, Wedding had dropped out of university and set his eyes on fast money. He financed a real estate hustle with a side business that was anything but small, a 6,800 plant marijuana grow operation he called 18 Carat Farms. When police raided the property in 2006, they found $10 million worth of cannabis, a shotgun, and ammunition. But not Ryan. He wasn't there. And with no fingerprints or direct evidence linking him, he walked free. The former Olympian was no longer competing on the slopes. He was competing in the drug trade. After the raid, Wedding's ambitions only grew. He began working with Iranian and Russian cocaine smugglers, moving from marijuana to hard narcotics. In 2008, he made a mistake, trying to buy cocaine from an undercover US agent. He was arrested, convicted in 2010, and sentenced to 4 years in prison. Behind bars, he wasn't broken, he was evolving. In 2011, he even got married to a woman from British Columbia while incarcerated, but the marriage didn't last, and neither did his resolve to stay clean. After his release, he vanished from the radar, only to reappear years later. According to us and Canadian authorities, Ryan James' Wedding fled to Mexico after his release, where he reinvented himself as El Jeff, Giant, or Public Enemy. Sources within law enforcement claim he became a high-ranking member of the Sinaloa cartel. By 2023, investigators say he was leading a transnational crime network involved in cocaine smuggling, weapons trafficking, and contract killings. Then came Operation Giant Slalom, a nod to his Olympic past and the US Justice Department's name for the international investigation that finally tied him to multiple murders and major drug trafficking operations. On the 17th of October 2024, the US Department of Justice indicted Wedding, accusing him of leading a criminal organization responsible for murder and narcotics trafficking. The victims included Jakhtar Sidhu, 57, and his wife Harbhajan Sidhu, 55, killed in November 2023, and Mohammed Zafar, 39, murdered in May 2024. Prosecutors allege Wedding ordered the killings personally, and that he worked alongside Andrew Clark, charged separately for another gang-related murder in April 2024. Authorities believe Wedding had innocent civilians killed to send a message, a brutal display of control. In March 2025, Wedding was officially added to the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list, replacing longtime fugitive Alexis Flores. The Bureau described him as armed, extremely dangerous, and possibly residing in Mexico under cartel protection. The reward, $10 million for any information leading to his capture. El Jeff himself remains nowhere to be found. It didn't take long for Hollywood to notice. In March 2025, Rolling Stone Films announced a docuseries titled Snow King: From Olympian to Narco, produced in collaboration with Dogwolf, Visitor Media, and Corriente del Golfo, the company co-founded by actors Gail Garcia Bernal and Diego Luna. The series promises to chronicle weddings, shocking transformation from Canadian hero to cartel villain. A man who traded gold medals for gunmetal, Ryan James' wedding was once proof that determination could take you anywhere. Today, he is proof that it can also take you too far. From the Olympic slopes to the FBI's 10 most wanted, his life is a chilling reminder that ambition, when untethered from morality, can turn victory into tragedy. He wanted to be on top of the world, and in a way, he still is, just not in the way he ever imagined. If you made it all the way here, thank you for watching. We have traveled a long road together, from Hanover, Maryland to Arizona, Los Angeles, Honduras, and even Canada, sweet, sweet Canada. It's been quite the journey, and we have met some truly unforgettable and unsettling figures along the way. Now, we have reached our final entry, a case that's both shocking and deeply disturbing. She has already been captured by the FBI, but her story deserves a full breakdown. Stay tuned because our next episode will uncover the disturbing case of Cindy Rodríguez Singh. Thanks again for being part of this community. Don't forget to subscribe, and if there is a case you want me to dig into, drop it in the comments below. Until the next insane criminal file.